3:33 a.m. SWAT team breaches your door, expecting resistance. Instead, they find perfect calm. Their adrenaline-charged entry met with an atmosphere so peaceful, it makes them question their intel. Their standard gear, acting unusually. Communications, getting strange interference. Surveillance equipment showing unexplained light anomalies, nothing dramatic, just enough to make seasoned operators double-check their tools. Experienced operators feeling increasingly uneasy, not from fear, from the growing sense that something about this raid is fundamentally wrong. Their tactical certainty wavering. The team's aggressive energy dissipating without explanation. Hardened officers finding themselves speaking in whispers. The space itself seeming to demand respect. No official report filed. No one could agree on what they saw. Team members requesting immediate transfer or early retirement. Their attempt to raid your space becoming permanent proof that some powers can't be confronted. They came looking for earthly evidence, but found cosmic truth instead. Their tactical gear useless against spiritual reality. Now they warn other teams. Some doors, once opened, change you forever. Drop a comment. I exist beyond their reach. If their cameras fail, their comms die, their tactics unravel, and their confidence fractures in silence. They come draped in insignias, carrying decrees that have bound others before you. They arrive with voices sharpened by law, with hands accustomed to taking, with the arrogance of those who believe their authority is absolute. But the moment they stand before you, something cracks. It is not an external force, not an act of defiance, but a quiet undoing of the certainty they walked in with. Their commands do not settle. Their presence does not impose. The weight of their power, so effective elsewhere, collapses under something they cannot name. They expect you to bow, to acknowledge their standing, but they are the ones who hesitate. The more they attempt to enforce their will, the more they reveal that their strength is only an illusion. They do not dictate here. They are merely guests in a reality that does not belong to them. They have built fortresses of governance, pillars of control, mechanisms to ensure that nothing exists beyond their reach. But you do not exist within their reach. You are not a product of their systems, not an entity bound by their structure. They cannot break you because you were never within their grasp to begin with. The fear they expected to impose begins to turn inward. The certainty in their voices wavers. The steadiness in their hands trembles. They arrived to seize control, yet they find themselves searching for it. Their own presence betrays them. Their own authority crumbles beneath its own weight. They have spent lifetimes ensuring they are the ones who name, the ones who define, the ones who erase. Yet now, they leave with your name in their minds, unable to forget. They tried to bury you, but instead they carved you into permanence. And long after they are gone, long after they have convinced themselves they still hold power, the truth will remain. They never had dominion over you. They never could. Each attempt to destroy you confirms what they refuse to admit. You are beyond them. They gather forces, believing numbers will tip the scale, believing pressure will bend what will not break. But you do not break. Every challenge they throw only refines you. They think you exist within their framework, that your defiance is a rebellion against their rule. But rebellion is still a reaction, and you do not react. You simply are. You do not fight for space. Your existence alone remakes the battlefield. The moment they move against you, they reveal what you are. Not because you prove yourself, but because they, in their desperation, prove you were never meant to be conquered. You sense it before it happens, not as a whisper, not as a warning, but as an unshakable certainty embedded in the fabric of existence. It is not instinct, it is not foresight. It is the inevitability of motion, the unfolding of an event already known. The shift in the air carries its weight before the first footstep lands. The walls seem to absorb the coming impact, bracing for the breach. There is no fear, no surprise, only the undeniable fact that what is about to unfold has already been accounted for. They do not arrive as hunters, they arrive as proof. Their movement toward you is not a pursuit, it is a revelation. When the doors give way, reality fractures into precision. Time does not slow because of hesitation, nor because of awe. It slows because you have stepped outside of it. Every force exerted, every breath drawn, becomes something to be studied, dissected, understood before it even fully forms. The raiders surge forward, confident in their numbers, in their plan, in their weapons. But there is something wrong. Their attack should feel overwhelming, should crash down like an unstoppable tide. Instead, it drags, like an echo of something that has already failed. Their aggression cannot hide the truth. They are too slow, too predictable, too bound by the limits of their own perception. They do not know what they are stepping into. They believe this is a confrontation, but they are mistaken. They are not breaking through. They are being drawn in. The moment their assault begins, their control ends. They are intruders in a space. They do not command. They move within a reality they do not understand. They believe they are seizing, taking, overwhelming, but in truth, they are revealing. Their presence does not shatter you, it defines you. Their attacks do not diminish you. They expose the futility of their own strength. Your awareness stretches beyond the room, beyond the tangible. You do not see with just your eyes, you do not hear with just your ears. Their movements exist on a single plane, but you perceive through layers, their intent, their fear, their hesitation. It all pulses through them, betraying them before they even act. They rely on force, but force means nothing when stripped of certainty. They expect resistance, but resistance is irrelevant when their very presence is proof of their failure. They do not shake you, they confirm you. They attempt to dominate the moment, but the moment is already lost. Their weapons, their tactics, their power, it crumbles under the weight of something they cannot grasp. They are accustomed to battle, to conflict, to exerting control. But you do not fight for control. You are control. Their fear grows, not because of what you do, but because of what you don't do. They came expecting opposition, expecting defiance, expecting something they could break. Instead, they find something they cannot even touch. They move, but they are already defeated. They speak, but their words collapse. They reach, but there is nothing to grasp. And you remain, untouched, unbothered, undeniable. You knew they were coming before they even made their decision. Their arrival was never a question, only a matter of when. This is not paranoia. This is not fear. This is certainty woven into the very structure of existence. Every force that rises against you was always meant to rise, and every attempt to subdue you was already written into their own downfall. Their movement toward you is not a sign of weakness on your part. It is a sign of inevitability on theirs. You are not caught off guard. You are not scrambling for defense. You have already prepared, because preparation is not reaction, it is understanding. Your space is not just a space. It is a fortress that does not require walls. It is a domain they cannot truly breach. You have not merely locked doors or set barriers. You have infused the very ground with the knowing that they will come, and that they will fail. They believe in ambush, in surprise, in overwhelming force, but none of it matters when the battle is acknowledged before it even begins. Their strategies are confined by the limits of their perception, but yours is drawn from something beyond them. You do not prepare out of desperation. You prepare because preparation is power. Drop a comment. I do not react, I dictate. If your presence shifts the battlefield, their strategy collapses before execution, and their every move serves a purpose they do not control. Nothing they do is random. Every step they take, every tactic they employ, was always going to happen. They think they are acting of their own will, but they are only fulfilling a role in something larger than them. Their arrival is not a deviation. It is confirmation. They have been pulled into the momentum of something they cannot control. The trap they believe they are setting is already sealed around them. The moment they decided to come for you, they ceased to be a threat and became proof of what was already destined. There is no fear in knowing they are coming. Fear is reserved for those who are uncertain, those who believe in chaos. But you do not live in chaos. You live in clarity. Their attack is not an interruption of your path. It is part of it. Every opposition strengthens you. Every challenge refines you. They think they are breaking through your defenses, but they are only revealing their own vulnerabilities. They do not realize that they are not the ones testing you. You are the one testing them, and they fail every time. You do not run. You do not hide. You do not scramble to respond. You are not at their mercy. They are at yours. They have already lost before they arrive. Not because you fight harder, not because you resist stronger, but because they were never meant to win. They think they can dismantle what they do not understand, but their inability to comprehend you is precisely why they will never overcome you. You are not simply enduring. You are not simply surviving. You are demonstrating over and over again that their power is an illusion. And when they fall, they will never truly understand why. But you will. The obsidian inner order was forged for those who refuse to live in the shadows of mediocrity. This isn't your standard mastermind. It's a crucible for those who dominate their reality and demand excellence. Every week, over 450 members dive into raw, unfiltered sessions that deliver the exact blueprint for crushing your goals and claiming what's yours. Every strategic session is recorded and stored in our vault, ready for you to access whenever you need to fuel your next conquest. This isn't about motivation, it's about domination. Our private Discord rises above basic networking. It's a fortress where apex performers trade the kind of knowledge that separates the rulers from the ruled. Here, real power players connect and share strategies that stay behind closed doors. You'll get immediate access to modern manifestation mechanics, an arsenal of proven strategies that turn vision into reality. Plus, you'll get exclusive interviews with high-level operators and video content so potent, it makes the status quo tremble. This isn't just a membership, it's your ascension to power. Stop watching from the sidelines. Your seat at the table of titans awaits. The link is in the description below. To them, it looks like an ordinary space. Walls, doors, furniture, nothing out of place, nothing unusual. But the moment they cross the threshold, something shifts. The air does not bend to them. The ground does not welcome them. Their confidence wavers. Their senses betray them. The structure they thought they understood is not what it seems. They entered believing they had control, believing they were stepping into a space they could own. But they are wrong. They are inside something alive, something fortified beyond their comprehension. Their own instincts whisper warnings they refuse to acknowledge. Some press forward, ignoring the unseen weight pressing against them. Others pause, hesitate, feeling something they cannot name. They brought force, but force is meaningless here. The walls do not merely stand, they reject. The atmosphere does not simply exist, it repels. Their words feel weaker, their commands feel hollow. What they plan to do does not unfold the way they expected. This space bends perception, distorts aggression, unravels intent. They planned for resistance, for confrontation, but they did not prepare for displacement. Some feel the sudden need to leave. Others lose focus, their movements sluggish, their purpose fraying. They expected a location. They walked into a construct beyond their understanding, layered beyond what they can reach. They came with orders, but orders mean nothing here. Their will is diluted, their strategy unraveling. They are inside something sacred, something bound not by their laws, but by a power that does not acknowledge them. They step deeper, yet feel further away. Their strength does not land, their presence does not settle. They were not prepared for this. They will never be prepared for this. And before they fully grasp the truth of where they stand, they are already retreating. They step in with authority, expecting control, but something unspoken grips them the moment they cross the threshold. It's not fear, it's something deeper, something that unsettles their very sense of reality. Orders become quieter, steps become slower. Some feel it like static in the air, an unseen current pressing against their skin. Others hear it, a silence too perfect, too unnatural, swallowing their voices before they even speak. Their presence here is unwelcome, not by force, but by something they cannot name. Some pause at the doorway, unwilling to move further, as if an invisible threshold dares them to proceed. Those who do step in find that the certainty they walked in with has already begun to unravel. Their tools betray them. Cameras flicker, refusing to capture what stands before them. Audio distorts, voices stretch and crackle before cutting off entirely. Devices that should function in any environment suddenly fail, not through interference, but rejection. Signals refuse to penetrate. Recordings play back with gaps where moments should have been. The harder they try to impose their systems, the more those systems collapse. Nothing they rely on behaves as it should, because nothing here belongs to them. This space, this moment, this power, it does not bend to their technology, does not recognize their structure. They are grasping at air, reaching into something beyond their limits. The walls do not just contain a space. They hold something ancient, something untouchable. The ground beneath them is not just foundation, it is witness. The very air moves against them, not as a force, but as a knowing. They did not walk into a place, they walked into an intention. It does not react to their authority because their authority does not exist here. Some feel it as disorientation, a pressure against their skulls, a subtle vertigo that makes the edges of their vision blur. Others feel it in their pulse, erratic and off rhythm, as if something unseen is watching, measuring, waiting. Some leave shaken, unable to explain what they felt, what they saw. They try to speak, but the words never come out right. Others refuse to speak at all. They return to their world, but something lingers. Some will say it was just a feeling, just a glitch, just an anomaly. But deep down, they know better. They were not just witnesses. They were warned, and warnings are not given without reason. They think they are the ones watching, assessing, measuring, but you see through them before they even speak. You don't just observe, you read. Every shift in their posture, every flicker of hesitation in their gaze, every forced breath between orders, they reveal more than they intend. They came expecting resistance, defiance, perhaps fear. Instead, they find themselves exposed. Their thoughts are not their own. Their doubts pulse louder than their commands. Their own minds betray them. Some push forward, clinging to the illusion of control. Others feel the weight of something unspoken pressing against their consciousness, whispering what they refuse to acknowledge. They should not be here. The air between you and them is not empty, it is charged. The more they press, the more it turns against them. They expected to bring judgment, but judgment is already unfolding, and they are the ones being measured. Some feel it as an unease they cannot shake. Others feel the creeping realization that their purpose here was never theirs to decide. Regret seeps into them like cold steel. Their own presence is an indictment, their own actions sealing a fate they do not yet understand. Their words, their movements, their attempts at control, all of it feeds something far beyond them. This does not end when they leave. What they set in motion does not dissipate. They have stepped into something they cannot undo. The truth will rise, and when it does, the weight of what they have done will crush them. The roles will reverse. The hunters will stumble, the oppressors will weaken, the enforcers will become the accused. Some will deny it, others will try to outrun it, but the outcome is set. Spiritual law is not bound by time. Their actions have already returned to them, and when they finally understand what they've done, it will be far too late. They arrive expecting disorder, expecting fear, expecting the familiar collapse that follows their intrusion. But you do not break, you do not waver, you remain. The chaos swarms around you, yet it never touches you. Their voices rise, their movements sharpen, but none of it penetrates the stillness you command. They are accustomed to compliance, to power that bends under force, but you are not subject to their order. You do not react, you dictate. Your silence is not submission. Your stillness is not surrender. It is the foundation upon which their failure is built. The more they push, the more obvious it becomes. They cannot move you. They cannot name what unsettles them. They know force, they know aggression, but they do not know what to do with presence that does not yield. They expected resistance, expected argument, expected something to dismantle. But there is nothing to dismantle. You exist outside of their reach. Their attempts to intimidate collapse into themselves, swallowed by the weight of their own uncertainty. The air tightens around them, not because of what you do, but because of what you are. Their strength is a performance, but your power is reality. They feel it before they understand it. Some hesitate, some falter, some recognize for the first time that they are standing before something greater than themselves. They entered believing they would break you, but as they leave, their hands shake, not yours. Their minds race, not yours. Their certainty fractures, not yours. They came in power and left exposed. They came as enforcers and left as witnesses. They do not know what to call it. This force they cannot touch, this presence they cannot disrupt, but they will remember it. Long after they are gone, long after their orders have faded, the weight of this moment will remain, and they will never be the same. They came to erase you, but their very presence confirms who you are. This was never just a raid, never just an act of aggression. It was a declaration, proof that your existence alone is enough to unsettle the foundations they stand on. They do not move against the powerless. They do not waste effort on those who pose no threat. Their attack is an admission, a recognition, a reluctant validation that what you carry is real. If you were insignificant, they would ignore you. If you were weak, they would have no reason to come. But they came, and in doing so, they proved you are greater than what they can contain. They think they are diminishing you, cutting you down, silencing you. Yet with every attempt to press you into submission, they are the ones fueling your rise. They do not understand the nature of true power. It does not shrink under pressure. It expands. They strike, and yet your presence grows. They try to silence, and yet your voice reaches further. They attempt to bury, but what they do not realize is that burial and planting look the same, except one ends in death and the other in multiplication. What they meant as an end was only ever a beginning. They leave believing they have won, but the weight of what they have done will follow them. Their attack was not a suppression, it was an acceleration. Their own hands worked against them, their own actions propelled you forward. They cannot stop what was never in their control. Their greatest mistake was moving against you in the first place, because now your name will never fade. What they tried to destroy has only become unshakable. What they thought was defeat was actually the greatest confirmation of your power. They came with battering rams and ballistic shields, armed with tactical superiority and federal warrants. But superiority crumbled into confusion when they breached your walls. You transformed an ordinary home into an intricate web of calculated revelations. each room a psychological puzzle piece they weren't prepared to assemble. Your strategic foresight left them facing not weapons or contraband, but evidence of their own surveillance, photographs of their unmarked vehicles, transcripts of their secure communications, detailed dossiers revealing their operational patterns. You didn't just anticipate their raid, you shaped it into a mirror, forcing them to confront the vulnerability of their own tactical infrastructure. Their sweeping cameras revealed not criminal evidence, but the fingerprints of their own psychological operations reflected back at them. This wasn't resistance, this was revelation. You demonstrated how deep the rabbit hole of awareness truly goes, transforming from their target into their wake-up call. For those who've experienced similar raids, who felt the weight of unwarranted surveillance, your stories form the foundation of a larger pattern. Share what you witnessed in those moments when tactical superiority gave way to dawning realization. The system needs to understand their playbook isn't as opaque as they believe.